Anna Wilding. Welcome to another show. I am here today with Kim Estes, a wonderful and beautiful actor, a multi-hyphenate who has also was in the Persian Gulf, has worked in the Gulf of Florida, cleaning up oil spills, is an engineer, is an incredible actor, and is just one of those great people in the universe that we should all know and should all work with. And Kim, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you, Anna. Thank you. Nice to be here.
That's great. So you won an Emmy since I last saw you. I think that was probably a couple of years ago that you won it. And tell me a bit about that.
I won an Emmy for Outstanding Actor in a short form series, comedy or drama. The show was called Dicks. It's about a group of detectives, and I played their boss.
Okay, great. Was there a specific storyline or anything like that? What was the...
It was a comedy. I had two very, very funny guest stars or co-stars with me in this series, and they actually drove the comedy. I was the sergeant. I was their boss.
That's great. Were you the straight guy?
Yeah, I was.
That's fantastic. I want to see the Emmy. Do you have it, or is it hidden?
She hides a little bit, but she's all right. She comes out of it.
She's all right. She's a nice bit of bling to have around the house, right?
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
Yeah, something to be proud of. Now, if I recall right, you were nominated or you were up for consideration for the show House, starring Hugh Laurie, which ran for years and years in the States. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And it won't harm you. But it's this insurance company?
This is not about insurance.
Then give me the damn script.
How was that process? Was it exciting? Was that your first time dealing with the Academy and being in consideration?
Absolutely, yep. And I needed that. It was good for me to go through.
So you also are an engineer, is that correct?
That is correct.
And I know you were involved in cleaning up the oil spill.
Well, the engineering piece comes from sailing on ships. And so I'm a graduate from the Maritime Academy, the Merchant Marine Academy in Vallejo, California. And then I sailed on ships, ocean-going ships for 14 years. And then I started cleaning up, working with groups that clean up oil spills around the world.
Any advice?
Yeah, keep it where it belongs.
And the oil derricks and then...
It's better for everybody. Just keep it.
I heard they were using mushrooms in some areas to clean up oil spills. Have you heard about that?
That's a new one.
Yeah, there's a guy in San Francisco who makes who grows mushrooms, and they've been used like a sponge to help clean up oil spills in some areas. So
there were a lot of innovative ideas that came out of the Gulf of Mexico oil spill, the Macondo well. There were a lot of people trying a lot of things, and some more successful than others. But there are a lot of creative people in the universe.
Do you think that work is more important than acting, or what's the difference for you?
I think the work is as valuable and as critical. Having the skill to be able to mount an attack on an oil spill to help capture the oil or help to ensure that it doesn't get to shore. That's an important. I just happen to have that in my quiver of arrows. Also, is getting up on stage in front of a couple of hundred people, is that important? It is for some. You push the art out into the universe, and you never know who you're going to inspire.
So in terms of acting, do you think there are issues of diversity in the American bailiwick of Hollywood? How does that affect you as an actor or anyone you may know?
I think it's a microcosm of society. It is the same issues we face with employment in a lot of places. It just so happens acting is, part of my life. It's part of my business. Do I know of items and issues where there have been blatant displays of desiring one character type over another? Absolutely. But I love people who actually go against the grain and will submit people of color for all roles.
I cast the Oreos commercial, the national commercial here, And I remember shocking the advertising agency and the production company a little. And I sort of said, well, why can't Father Christmas be an African American? And so
Did you keep your job?
I kept my job. I didn't get another one with the company. I literally had a very diverse casting of Father Christmases, and they were not quite used to seeing that diversity. And it was wonderful because commercials have progressed so far now that what happens in America, I've noticed, is that when people audition for a commercial, they get all dressed up, they get the house all dressed up, they're all decked out in their Father Christmases. So I had all these African American Father Christmases, and I was sending their reels forward. It was it was fun, but no, I didn't get another gig with them.
Yes, it is sometimes worrisome that there aren't more people taking those chances, but I think there are more today than there used to be. That they're not afraid to push the envelope, go out on the edge, give a creator or a director or an agency a broader spectrum or a broader range of people to actually portray and represent the product.
Right, exactly. And how, in terms of Black Lives Matter, we've just had a huge, obviously, civil rights movement is starting all over again, or there's more focus on it in this country. What do you say? How do you think or feel about it? So Trump came out today, and the mayor of Washington, D.C., as you know, had painted Black Lives Matter along the entire street. And it was quite a coup and quite stunning. And of course, now Trump is trying to get it removed. So he has now declared that it is a hate symbol, a symbol of hate. Now, I don't want to drill down on politics here because I know everyone might be Republican or Democrat. So but I do want to talk about this in sense of race. What do you think of this movement and moment that we're having in history now in America?
I think it's real important that people who have the ability to educate others do so. So when I come across material where I know that by people reading this of all colors, white, black, brown, of all colors, they get a chance to read this material that at least I put on my Facebook page or on my Instagram page, history from Tulsa, from Rosewood, from Emmett Till to the three young boys who went down to Mississippi to register voters, and they ended up in a landfill somewhere. It's like when I post that stuff, it's real, and the more education I can instill out there, the better. I want people to know why Black lives do matter. Why all of a sudden? It's not all of a sudden.
No,
it's been like this for years. And now attention has been drawn forward. Why? Because of what we're doing right now. We have the ability to transmit to a lot of people what's important. And I just believe that if all of us take the time to educate ourselves, educate others. I'm not asking I don't want an opinion swayed. I don't want an apology. I don't care how many pictures of people being lynched you see, and you didn't do it. And I understand that. But the culture of this country, the culture of the country should be understood. And that's what I feel my calling is. And if I get a chance to take people to the next level of understanding of why we are the way we are as a country, I think the resolution at the end of the day is going to be better.
Yeah, I think that history and teaching people that history is so incredibly important, especially as we do have a nation of immigrants. So I am not from this country, but I am now a citizen. And even though my background and my hereditary had nothing to do with any of this. In fact, it was very, very different. I still am learning every day. Do you know what I mean? About the history. And I am accepting the fact that I have moved to a country that was built on slave labor. And the more and more I read, the more disgusting. I already knew it was disgusting. Do you know what I mean? But the more and more I read, it just piles on and on and on and on. And America does need to come to grips with that. I actually am a firm believer in reparation. I don't have a problem with it. I've seen it work in New Zealand. I've seen it work in other countries. I think it's important. What do you think about it?
I have a little bit of a mixed bag because I don't know. Is it working in New Zealand and Australia? Do those things?
I wouldn't say it's working in Australia. I was quite specific. Australia's had a long time problem, as we know, with how they treat the Aborigines.
Yes.
New Zealand's history is different. The Maori were very quick to fight the crown on their own turf in their own way. In other words, they took it to the courts. They took it to the crown courts. Different from the diaspora that here is in America. In New Zealand, there are 12 tribes or 14 tribes, and they're very, very linked within themselves in their own communities. So each tribe was able to go and sue the crown, and they did so, and they won hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And then at that point, it was up to those tribes what they did with that money and how they invested it. And some have been hugely, hugely, hugely successful, and others have not been so successful, but they've been given the freedom to have those funds, and we're talking billions of dollars combined, right, to go and build a life. And there are very strong incentives for Maori there. My great-grandmother was called Mother to all Maori because my family put the Maori in their first farms. And interestingly enough, in our case, the British Crown tore down their farms and our farms, like everyone's farms, right? I have to say, as much as we go, yay, Queen Elizabeth II, yay, Meghan and Harry, and, everyone, and as much as we all love the royal family on one level, on the other level, there's a lot of greed there. And their way they colonized countries was not pretty, and it wasn't always pretty for anyone. Do you know what I mean? I mean, they stripped our family as well, It's a very interesting dichotomy that exists there, but the slave trade of Portuguese and Spanish and British, the trafficking is absolutely disgusting and horrific. And I think there should be payment made to those descendants and those families in America. If there's a way to find out, and it's very, very hard because a lot of people died without a grave, right? A lot of African Americans died, which means there's descendants and they don't know who their great-great-grandparents were or their great-great-great-grandparents were. And I think it's a huge task. But if we look at also Jewish repatriation, where they're getting funds back from those specific Jewish families, the specific German families that were involved with Hitler, I'm all for going after those old plantation owners. I think, why not? We have Ben Affleck. He's descended from plantation owners, he's discovered. Why not go after those families? These families have accumulated generations and millions of dollars of wealth on the back of slavery, and they've never apologized. They've never apologized. I haven't seen it anywhere that any of these plantation owner descendants have stood up and said, hey, what we did was wrong, and we should compensate. We should form a lobby group. We should go to the government. We should find a way to, make amends. I think it's worked in other countries, and I think it could work. It's never going to replace anything, but it's like when someone's been raped. It's just that little bit of justice, right?
There are, I'm sure there will be models that will surface for victims in our past. It is a horrible, horrible task. because you're right. A lot of people died without graves. A lot of people were hung, lynched, or just disappeared off the face of the planet. And I think we do need good models on how to go about doing that. It's nothing that's going to happen overnight. I think the people who were promised the 40 acres and the mule should get their 40 acres and a mule no matter what is going on.
Yeah, and they should get it from the Portuguese and Spanish and British governments as well.
Well,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there was more slave trade in South America.
And I'm not sure how many lawyers in this country have looked at that, but the Maori were very quick to go after the crown. You know, they were very quick. They pulled every lawsuit they possibly could.
Well, you've got, you know, and if you look back far enough, and I think we will go through the Black Lives Matter case, and we may come up with the solution to help with payments to the descendants of slaves. We will also, there should also be the Native Americans who were here before anyone.
Exactly, and they've been given a really rough time as well in a different.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I think you got to lump all those things and the majority of those things into a bucket, and you know, figure out the best solution. It's going to be a mess, and like I said, it may not be my generation that it happens to. Maybe it's my grandchild, and they'll probably figure it out. However, before all that happens, there is a cultural piece of our country that needs to change. We as a culture, and they say culture is that thing that happens when we have people who are employers. Culture happens when what your employees do when nobody's looking. And so for all of us to say, we're all going to do the right thing, it's a huge culture shift. And I think we've got a long way to go on that, as well as fighting the good fight to continue to make sure that our culture does change. So our children, our grandchildren don't have to go through what it is that my parents went through, their parents went through, and their parents' parents went through. It's not necessary.
Do you feel, I know that Ghana has set up the door of no return in Ghana. I know Nigeria is doing the same thing, welcoming African Americans back to Africa to learn where their families may have been from in Ghana and how the history played out at those times. Do you feel any draw to go to Africa, or the motherland as it's referred to by the African state diaspora?
I don't know of one Black person that does not want to get to a spot, and even if it's the spot of reflection, to understand and to have a better understanding from whence you came, what shoreline you came off of, what prison your great-grandparents may have been held in, where before they were launched on a boat. I don't know of anybody who doesn't want to know that and understand that better. And it is one of those wonderful quests that you hope you have time on the planet to get to do. I believe the knowledge of that is important. The knowledge of that history to give to my grandchild is important. I want him to know, and I want my granddaughter to know as well, what that time was about and how this came about and how we ended up on a plantation somewhere in Arkansas or Missouri or Mississippi, someplace, and then trace the lineage line back. That's a good thing for everybody to know.
It is. It's wonderful. And I think we'll end on that thought because it's a very powerful and emotive thought, Kim. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best for your acting career. I'd love to see you writing or doing some directing as well.
I do that.
Yeah, I think there's some great stories.
I'll clue you in when that happens.
Yeah, do, please. Okay.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. It's been great.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Africa will love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.